Today, very special episode. We are going to break down actual corn hedges. Enough talking. This is stuff that we're actually looking at, actually possibly doing, not a recommendation, but this is the real meat and potatoes of corn hedging. We're just going to stick with one market today, try to keep it simple, and hopefully it's a very educational episode.
Brought to you by American Federal Bank.
Yes.
Welcome to Hedge Heads, where hosts Jon and Ryan Tungseth discuss commodity markets, hedging, and anything related to trading futures. Remember, the risk of loss in trading commodity interests can be substantial. These are opinions only and not trading advice. While no one knows where the market's going, they're not afraid to share some ideas.
Well, John, we're back, and we're actually in the office today. The fishing was great, but we decided we should maybe actually get some work done this afternoon.
Back to work. Boo.
It sounds like you're fishing later in the week, though.
I am. The weather is turning one more time. People are deer hunting. I'm going to fish. Call me odd, but that's a place to be on the lake. Then the boats actually put away for the winter, which is sad.
I did go for a run last night and going around the local lake here in town. There was definitely ice along the shore already.
Stop that talk. That's no good. We know it's coming soon enough. That's something that you can't stop in Minnesota, but we're just like we said, this is a special episode. We're going to break it down exactly what we're doing, and we're going to talk corn.
Let's dive into corn. Let's talk about some hedges, some real examples, not recommendations, examples of what you could do.
Yeah, this is not what you could do, what you should consider. You don't have to do anything, but this is absolutely stuff that you need to get in front of you every year. And I've talked about breaking the cycle of, most of the phone calls are, I have this amount of old crop on hand. Now it's old crop. The stuff that you just harvested. What do I do? What you need to do is break out of that cycle and start planning for next year. So what does that mean? We say this a lot. We've gotten some feedback and people want to know, what does that mean? Please explain it better. And we'll go very slow and we'll just cover one market today and break it down exactly how we're doing it. And so what I'm looking at is let's start at what most people do. They want the hedge, and they do it in various ways, but they want the high price. Like, is this the high? Should I hedge? There's a lot of different ways to do it. Incremental sales on the way up, 10%. Sell every Tuesday, 2% in your crop. Whatever it is, people have their methods, and it may work for you. It may be hit or miss. What I like to do is get that guaranteed floor and then keep the upside wide open, or variations of that. So in other words, give up a little bit of the bottom line because you don't know what the market's going to do. And then if it goes to $7, you get that. If it goes to $4, you get $4.60. You know what I mean? You don't want to be with a crowd that just gets $4 and they don't understand how they missed it again this year. So what can you do? Specifically, here's what you would be looking at. So this is what like the insider would normally be, or just talking to me. So I am picking September for my month. December is the new crop officially. They'll say don't use months that aren't that, but
not December 25, December 26.
December 26.
Yeah.
Yep. And if you notice that your highs last year came in by February for December 26, other years it's even sooner than that. So everybody thinks it's always the summer, and they're mistaken. Sometimes it's the summer and sometimes it's not. So that covers both these strategies. So what I'm tracking right now, and I'm not getting in, is 480 calls in September and 485s. There are currently 21 cents for the 480s, and I think it's like 19 3/4 for the 485s. And this is what I'm stuck with right now. I'd rather be looking at puts, but we're looking at calls. Some people call them courage calls. Why am I looking at calls if I think the corn price isn't going to go up and I want to lock in a good price? Because we're at a lower price right now. We're actually at a price that's not very useful. It's not profitable, but it's not low either. It's just this in-betweener, this 450 to 460 December 26. Not good for anything, and we haven't seen enough weather. But you'll hear guys running out there and saying, should I lock in December 26th? You hear that all the time. And this is where the problems begin. I'm not saying you don't lock in a profitable price that works for your farm, but don't do it for everything. And that's why guys have a hard time making sales, because it's final. If I sell 460, that's what I'm going to get. So I like to go in, I want to get 460, but I also want to get $7. So how do you do that? Or $8 or $9, wherever it goes to. So that's what we're going to work towards in this episode.
So when you talk about looking at those calls, the 480 and 485 in September, you're talking about buying them.
Yeah, right now, that's the market that we're given, but they're too expensive for me to buy right now. And historically, they're not. They're not expensive. The implied volatility is low, but I still don't like where they're sitting. I would rather own like a 480 for 15 cents, right? 15, 16 cents, 485 for 13. So what am I doing by buying that? Well, if I'm growing corn, do I need more corn? No, you don't. But the corn isn't even in the ground yet, and you haven't marketed anything yet. So what you're doing with this call is, in a market like this that's in a better mood, it would take like one China story with beans or something with beans and some weather, and anything, and beans would instantly go up because of the situation that we're in right now. That would pull corn up, probably to that 480, 485 level. And at that point, you'd be like, do I sell corn or don't I sell? What I'm saying is something's going to, oftentimes it gets up to these levels that the 480, 475, 485, and then doesn't go any further than that. So you don't want to get to there and then, do I sell it or not? I haven't seen any of the South American weather. I haven't seen any of the U.S. weather, but I got to make this decision right now. I'm going to wait a little bit. And then that's how it falls away on the guys, because it's final. Like if you sell at 485, that's all you're going to get. You can't, if it goes up, you're not going to get that. So what this call does, if you buy it when corn's down, which it was, and it's worked its way off the bottom right now, if you buy it when it's down and give up 15 cents to the bottom line, when it gets to 480, you're able to market your 480 corn crop, forward contracted, and you still have your upside wide open. So the call that you paid 15 cents for gives you the right to own corn long at 480, 485. You give 15 cents to the bottom line for that. So that's the give and take of that strategy, is that you leave your upside open, but you do want to sell those levels. That's what a guy is. That's when we say we don't know what it's going to do. That's where that money comes in. So what happens if you buy this call at 15 cents, and this is not where the market is right now, because we're not putting any of this stuff on.
No, this is the big thing is this is what you're watching for. This is where we start doing research. These are levels that we want to look for, and it's part of making that plan.
Yes, and the call expires in the third Friday in August, and it just so happens that was the high in the drought year. It would have basically forced you out on the high of that long call. So you can only lose the 15 cents that you pay for it. You cannot lose any more than that per 5,000 bushels. And it gives you the right to be long at 480. That's what a call is. So when it gets to 480, 485, 490, wherever in that zone, or even 475, a little short of that, you can say to yourself, I can lock this price in now, get 475. But if it falls away from there, then you're going to get 475 minus the 15 cents you paid. And there's all kinds of shades of gray in between that. You might sell the call back for 8 cents and lose only 8 cents. But let's just say you lose it all and it goes down from there. You're going to get 465, and the other guy that sold 4.8, he's going to beat you. But in the years that it goes up, you're going to wipe those guys out. You're going to be getting 520, 550, 560. You're going to get your choice at higher prices, because there's probably going to be an event that led it to that price. You're going to be able to get that price because you have your call on. And that's the difference, is you what you're doing is locking in a price and leaving the upside open. That's the market that we're given today. I much prefer, because this doesn't guarantee you 480 or 485. This only guarantees you once you sell it up there, and it might not ever get up there. That's the problem we have. We're not that far away, 457? So it can get up there fairly easy. So let's look at go back a few years ago when I said it was the world's easiest corn hedge. I would much rather buy a put at it. I would much rather have the market work its way up from here, never get these calls bought, go up to 485, and then look at puts and then buy like a $5 put for 30 cents. Cause that way I get my guarantee of 470 and I have my upside wide open without getting too, we're trying to just cover the one strategy. But if what I'm saying is if I never get these calls bought for 15 cents, it means the market's moving up most likely. Then at that point, if that were the case, then I'm going to go into the same mode. And this is better where you're able to buy the higher put. And let's just, I buy in the money puts that cost more money, but then you get a higher floor. That's why I would, even if it was like a few years ago, it was $4.75 was a December price. I bought $5 puts for 33 cents. And then you essentially have $4.65 guaranteed and you're upside wide open. So I hope that we don't get filled, if we decide to do this in guys' accounts, because it would mean corn's going down. I'd much rather have us not get these calls bought and then corn go up and then buy a put and then have the upside open. So both these strategies, even though we're trying to condense them as slow and as easy as we can, what these both do, and this is the important part. Sorry, my text just keeps going off in the phone. The important part is that you have your upside open and you have your guaranteed price that's profitable. That's the goal. You don't need to understand every single thing we're saying here, but these are limited risk strategies that leave the upside wide open. This is the planning that you need to start doing in order to not fall into the same trap of this low price at harvest and storing all these bushels every year. Now, logistically, you can't do this for 100% of your crop. No one expects you to. Not only that, you should do some forward contracting. You should do some cash sales. You should do incremental sales, and you should do some of this. It should be a mix of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And weighted different ways in different years. More aggressive at the elevator one year where there's high margin calls potential, and more weighted here when it's kind of a quieter market. But anyway, the whole idea behind this kind of stuff is planning so you have your upside wide open and you have your guaranteed price as well. Now, why don't guys do this? There's two reasons that I see. I'll let you explain a little bit more like what your philosophy is too before I talk too much. But I want to. There's two reasons, and I'll get to that after Ryan. But we'll hear Ryan talk about what he thinks of this.
Well, I actually have some questions for you first because I want to walk through this scenario. So let's say we're going to take the 480 right now. We got September closed at 458 today.
Yes.
You're looking at the 480 call. Let's say I do want to buy the call. Like I feel like corn is going to move up, but I want this call in place. So I'm going to spend the 20 cents.
Yes.
And I want to buy it. What's my, like, I get that call bought, and let's go through the two scenarios. So I bought that call at 20 cents, 21 cents. Corn goes up, corn goes to $5. So my call is appreciated. What do I do when it gets to 5 or 5.25? Do I keep that call, but I market my corn? Do I sell my call? I mean, I know I have all these options, but how does that scenario play out with corn going up? We can sell the call and use that to market again, or we sell the future but keep the call. How does that work out?
And that's a great question that I did skip. That needs to be covered. So you have one or two things that you can do there. You can sell your physical bushels and keep the call on, because let's say this happens by May. We haven't seen any of the weather that we need to see to determine where the yield's going to be, and you don't know how much you can market. So you might just say, hey, we haven't seen enough weather. I want to keep this call on. And the call's, say, appreciated 20 cents. So it's 40 cents now. So you got another 20 cents. So let's say it's, what did you say, 520?
Yeah, say it went to 520.
Okay, yep. 520. So you have 40 cents. It'll be worth more than that. It'd be probably worth 50 cents. There'll be some premium there. So it's 40 cents in the money plus another 10 cents. So you got approximately 30 cents of profit in there. What you can do is market 520 corn and also sell your call and the profits there that you have on top of it, depending on the outlook. So then it would be 520 plus the 30 cents profit. So you get 550 futures for your corn. That's option number one. And some guys do that. This is the hard decision that you have to make. Other guys will be like, hey, we haven't seen enough weather. I want to see what this can do. what can happen at that point is you got your 520 locked in, forward contracting, but then the call could fall in value. Then you would get less that, let's say you finally saw enough weather and the call was only worth 15 cents at that point. You would have a 5-cent loss. It would be 520 minus the 5-cent loss on the option. And without getting too far in the weeds here, there's a million different combinations. But
let's just keep it simple. I mean, the basic math is you lose 5 cents on the call, but you marketed your corn at 520, so 515 is what you end up being.
Why would you do that? Well, it's for the bushels that you want to see what the weather does. You're profitable at these levels, but it's a farm decision. Do I want to gamble for more money, or do I want to take these numbers? And that's a personal decision, and it really depends on the year. If it's a really dry spring and it feels like a dry, hot summer, I'd keep my call on. I mean, I'd keep it really simple. If it's kind of wet, but there's a little 2-week window of a threat, I would probably take my 520 plus my profits in the calls. Or there's a third option. You could take that profit in everything, get your 550 corn, and then buy an out of the money call way out of there, give up maybe 8 cents, and you lock it in, 550 minus the 8 cents. And it's probably going to be up there at the $6 range for the 8-cent call if there's a threat, and then reopen the upside at $6. Now, see, this is complicated, but that's what we do. And this is really a basic hedge right here. This is as basic as it gets. And that's really why guys shy away from it. But there's a million different things that can happen. And that's what we're here for, to help you along the way. That isn't your job. That's our job.
Yeah.
And that's where guys get a little intimidated, is they think that they should know all this. No, you should have a good guy that should help you out with this.
Yeah. And it is complicated. That's the shortest answer we can give.
Yeah.
And the getting out is always the hardest part.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Getting in, we got some decision time. We can get in, and this is something that took me years of being in the business to learn. Don't get in until you have a plan too.
Yeah.
If you get in without a plan, which I still do. And then I'm like, oh, I was stupid. I just did that. But have this planned out, even though your plan's going to change. You need to have that plan. So that being said, let's look at the other side of that. Let's say today I like that 480 call. I'm going to buy it at 20 cents, but corn does not go above this level again. Let's say it goes the other way. It goes to, instead of 520, we go to 420 over the next couple months. We're in May and corn's at 420.
Then you're going to be worse. You're going to be worse off. You've now wasted what a lot of people would consider wasted 20 cents. But that's where the difference of opinion is. You didn't really waste it. Nobody can see the future. You gave yourself the upside open, and year 3 that you do this is the year that it goes to $7 and everybody else is locked in at $4.30 because they're scared, which is what's happening right now. A lot of guys are taking this $4.60 price that's December's offering. And then they're like, well, if it, weather turns, I'll buy a call. What if it sneaks up for the next number of months and you never get that call bought and it goes to $5.50, $6? The guys that are doing these strategies are going to way outdo what you did. Yeah. And that's really what we're trying to get, not to confuse you, try to break it down on how this all works, on the most elementary of levels and why you would choose to do it. There's other guys that they'll buy, like right now, I looked at September 540s. They're right around, I think, 8 cents. And there's going to be guys that buy, let's say you grow 50,000 bushels of corn a year, which a lot of guys are over that and some guys are under. And just nice, easy number for everybody to work with. See, there's going to be guys that buy triple their production or quadruple their production on cheap calls for those years where, like, they'll just do regular marketing that they would in the cash market that like the regular marketing that you are aware of, but they'll have these cheap calls on that when it explodes in the summer, they'll be a part of that explosion. And, they're giving up a little bit of the bottom line every year. It's a really simple strategy. Give up 3, 4, 8 cents, somewhere in there, to participate in those years where it explodes for whatever reason. Russia, Ukraine, drought in South America. there's going to be guys, it fails, most of the time, but in the years that it works, the farms make tremendous profits on those. But more often than not, it doesn't work. But the key is that they're participating in that upside. And that's where, that's circling back to what I want to get to, is that's why you would do this. You want to be part of these huge markets. And guys, it goes to 520 for a reason. And then what happens is that reason is a good reason that I got there, but then everybody says it's going to $6. And it's hot and dry in the forecast, and it's going to go to $7. But
it's going to 6, it's going to 10.
And that's why nothing gets done ever in the summer, and then it falls off, and then you'll have other guys that do market it, and maybe they're doing strategies like that. How are these guys able to pull the trigger when nobody else is? This is getting warmer. Some guys just naturally can go against the flow and do very good in the cash markets and market at very high prices. They're very few and far between that walk to the beat of the different drummer that do that. But there's definitely guys that do that too. But you don't want to be the cash guy that repeatedly doesn't pull the trigger because once that sale is done, it's final. But this strategy might not work at all next year. It might not work a month from now. It always changes, and you need help in trying to figure out what's best in these markets. 2 years ago, it was very easy to hedge corn. Last year was very difficult. Probably one of the hardest years because you had very good corn numbers. And you had the outlook that was, we were worried about increased acreage, but you had a really good outlook with 1.2 billion bushel carryover, and we hadn't seen anything planted at all. So what we had was a market that collapsed in February. Didn't give anybody a chance to see any weather, and we just so happened to have a perfect weather window where there was not a threat. One of the harder times the market corn that I've seen. So if a guy's crying in his beer this year, it's forgivable. It wasn't easy for anybody. You just don't see markets like that very often. But more often than not, you have very good opportunities. Go back a couple of years ago, it doesn't get any easier than what happened. Why? And then I kind of didn't say, why don't guys do it? And it's very simple. They don't want to spend the money on doing this, or they don't understand how to do it. And that's really what it is. So giving up 15 cents to the bottom line to keep your upside open, in my mind, is a bargain. In other guys' mind, that's 15 cents that I can't spend. I think that's a very bad attitude in these markets to have. I think you're going to have to be better at marketing than you've ever been, and you're going to need to be open to ideas, not do them all, and hear what guys have to say about how you keep that upside open, yet lock in a profitable price. I just think you keep it that simple. Profitable on the farm with a price, yet somehow have the upside open and keep it at a limited risk, if it's possible to do it that way. You're going to have guys that do what we're talking about, and they'll throw 3 or 4 different legs on. They'll be short in March premium, for the sold bushels. And if that premium expires worthless, they'll use that premium to buy their calls. They'll have it so streamlined. They'll use different crop years. And I'm not telling you to do that. It's not wise to do that at all. But there's guys that are very weathered and they know exactly what they're doing. They have the bushels, like I say, in storage. And if it does get up to those prices, they sell it at those prices. But it gets way more advanced than this very quickly. And you don't need to be like that. You can keep it very simple. And where I'm at and where I'll end at is, although this seems very complicated, once you get involved in it, it's not. You can follow it. You don't even have to put any money. You don't have to be in the markets. You just need to understand these basic concepts of keeping the upside open, yet guaranteeing yourself a profitable price. And there's different tools to use that. You have accumulators, you have different stuff, and they all have their benefits and they all have their drawbacks. This one has its drawback as well. You give up some of the bottom line to keep that upside open. But I still think that that's what a guy's going to need to navigate the markets that we have nowadays. Other guys are just going to get really frustrated at the markets. And you see a lot of that online right now. You can see as much as you want. And they're going to be, this is impossible. We don't have a good price. But just know there's other guys out there every day trying to make a better price. As a matter of fact, I talked to one of my good clients today. And we need to start planning on what we're talking about today. And we're going to start the process right now. We're not going to do everything tomorrow, but we're going to start talking about what we're looking at. And then, we did get the first 2 orders in today. And it's all for next year's crop because that's generally now in between now and May is when most of the high prices come. Sometimes you have a summer scare. But anyways, back to keep it a limited risk, guaranteed profitable prices, and keep the upside open. Learn how to do that.
Absolutely. Let's leave corn for a minute and wrap up today with cattle. You mentioned on X you're liking some live cattle spreads. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're watching in live cattle?
Well, there's a lot of opportunities. Sure. It is not for the faint of heart in cattle. Stuff swinging around wildly because of the way that they went about getting the cattle market down. The threat they're going to import all this beef. The front is strong and the back end is really weak. And going into the top, the back end was really strong, and the front contract was strong as well. But a lot of the contracts weren't as strong there in the middle, and then the way deferreds were the strongest of all. Now that's completely flip flopped to where like you're 220 in the back, or 219, 215, and you're 228 in the front, and the front's the strongest. What you got is spreads on the move, and there's a whole bunch of them. There's risk in anything, but call me if you want. The easiest way to do this is call me. I'll tell you exactly what I'm looking at cattle spreads. I looked at about 20 different ones today. Guys, we're getting involved, but you do want to be cautious and you want to know what you're doing. I tend to go in the back end of this thing. The front end's a little scary for me, but if you like swings and opportunities in cattle, you can't say it's a safer way because it could literally go two different directions. Right. But it's a long and a short on at the same time without getting too in depth on it. Call me and we'll go over it. We'll go over anything you want to. I'll answer any questions. Yeah. But they are on the move and providing opportunities.
And the months matter. So if you don't know the cattle market, talk to someone who knows the cattle market before you just pick two random months.
Yeah, you're going to look at, hey, why is April $7 ahead of June? That's absolutely normal. Yeah. And then why is August over October? That's not normal. So you're going to want to know what you're looking at and how you're looking at it and the dangers before you get involved. But they are on the move. And in this volatility, what I love is, that's crumbs. Nobody cares about that stuff. They want the big home runs and this stuff. Yeah. So you tend to get good entries or entries that you don't think you can get. Like I missed one. February was just $2 under December, under April, and then shot $2 above. Recently, or $1.50 above. They're swinging around $3 or $4 in the spreads right now. So it creates all these opportunities. I get excited.
Yeah. And remember that $2 or $3 swing can be plus or negative depending on which side you're on. There is the volatility there.
Yes.
It matters which side.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to make sense. These markets don't have to make sense. But once calmer heads prevail, generally it gets back in line with reality. And that's where the opportunity is in the volatility. And then when things get calm, it's usually it goes to where it normally goes to. Not necessarily in this market though. Right. Anything's possible in this. But I hope this episode wasn't too complicated. We're going to try to make it really, really simple, and it still got really complicated really fast. But that's why guys like Ryan and I exist, like to explain this stuff. We don't have all the answers. What we want to do is get the ideas in front of you to improve your marketing. And I say it a million times, like that is the goal. Even if you do nothing here, let's say you're a client, you do nothing here, and I have clients that have marketed better than they have in a long time, and they've literally done none of these strategies here because it didn't fit their strategies, but their marketing is improving in other ways a great deal. That's where you want to get to, more knowledgeable. Do not be the complainer on Twitter or Facebook. Do not be that guy because no one's going to care. I meant, nobody wants to see anybody struggle, but if you can try to help yourself out of that situation, at least entertain those ideas and see if it fits your farm. It might not. Maybe you aren't made for this. Maybe you're made for farming. There's guys in the cash market that are gigantic farms, and that's all they've ever done. But still try to fix what's broken here. These markets are going to get tougher. I don't think it's going to be easier than it's been in the past. So I would encourage you to learn. And what we say today will change in 5 days from now, and it's hard to keep up with. But again, that's why you have guys covering it. That's what we do. You're out there farming, and hopefully we can help.
Absolutely. Why don't you leave your number, John?
218-731-1578.
Thanks, John.
Yes.
All right, I want to start the podcast over.